Hey, what's up, guys? In this video, I'm going to discuss with you an article that I just read. And that article was referring to a doctor in the state of Kansas that was just sentenced to life in prison for prescribing or overprescribing pain medication, opioids, that caused the death of one of his patients. The patient was the one who was responsible for taking these pills, these pain medicine, and he was the one who overdosed on his own. The doctor was not physically giving it to him. He was only writing the prescriptions, and this guy was going to the pharmacy and getting the medicine and taking it as he decided. Now, the reason I wanted to talk about this is because I have a huge problem with the direction in which society is heading with regards to personal responsibility. And it began with strict liability laws that came into place where drug dealers were being sentenced for any drug addict or user who overdosed and died. So they were going after the drug dealers and charging them with basically murder or involuntary manslaughter. So it just doesn't make any sense to me. And the reason it doesn't make any sense is because this country is founded on the notion of free will and personal responsibility. I am a sufferer of extreme back pain, and for years I was prescribed some of the strongest painkillers that are available. Okay? And the doctor was helping me and trusting that I would take them responsibly, only as needed. But at any moment, I could have just grabbed a bunch of them and overdosed and killed myself. Now, how would the doctor be to blame for that? Think about this. It makes no sense at all. If it were a child we were talking about and the doctor was physically giving the medicine to the children, then I understand there could be some liability. But for me, my position is even the drug dealer should never be charged. No one is forcing anyone to take any drugs in this country. No one is putting a gun to another person's head and forcing them to consume these drugs. They are doing so at their own free will. Whether they're addicted, whether they're drug addicts, whether they're suffering withdrawals, it doesn't matter. We're talking about adults here. Blame the person. Don't blame the person, the supplier, the one who's only filling a void, who is basically filling a demand that this country has, a very great demand for narcotics. So I don't even think the drug dealers should be held accountable. And just imagine how I feel about the doctor now. Now, I'm going to link the article below. You guys read it yourselves. It does say that the doctor was overprescribing, or he was prescribing medication to people who wouldn't necessarily have qualified for those type pain meds based on whatever ailments they had. But again, I'm not saying he's not guilty of something. Take his license away. Give him a fine. Suspend him. If you must, put him in prison for a year, 6 months. Give him probation. Something along those lines. But to think that this doctor is given life in prison should be reserved for only the most heinous of crimes, for the worst of the worst out there. Not some white-collar bullshit like this. If you're a murderer, you get out in the state of New Jersey. You get out in an average of 10 years or so, depending on where you are, depending on the circumstances. And to think that this guy's got life, he's in his 50s, he's been given life in prison for this, it just doesn't make sense. And it goes back to what I said earlier. This is a major problem in our country where people are deflecting personal responsibility and blaming others for everything. If you're involved with someone who's an adult and that person has a drug addiction, blame them. Don't blame the person who they're getting it from, because if it's not that person who they bought it from, it will be another. The drug dealers, the doctors, it's a supply and demand thing. That's it. Blame the society who's so fucking addicted to these drugs. Don't blame the people that are fucking filling that void and giving it to them and selling it to them. I'm not saying they're not without fault only because there are laws against it. Me personally, I don't believe in any drug laws. I don't believe in that. I don't believe that a person selling something to someone else should be put in prison. It doesn't make sense in my mind. Prison in itself should be reserved for violent offenders, people who you can clearly point their victim out. Who is the victim of this person's crimes? And when you can clearly point it out and everyone can agree, yes, this person is fucked up or has been killed, mutilated, raped as a result of another person's actions, then you put that person in prison. But the drug dealer didn't fucking do anything. He didn't force you. It's your own dumbass who fucking is addicted and who went and bought this shit. And in this case with the doctor, it just blows my mind. We're headed down a very dangerous path. And unfortunately, because of bullshit like this, because people who can't handle themselves or their own addictions, they can't maintain personal responsibility and discipline in taking these medicines, people like myself who suffer extreme fucking pain all my life, in the last 9 years, I'm in fucking pain. I can't get the medicine that I need because other people have been abusing it and other people have died as a result of it. I don't give a fuck about that. That has nothing to do with me. And yet, the laws are all changing now, making people like myself and people who are in even worse situations criminals. Because at the end of the day, what the fuck are people supposed to do when they're in that type pain and they've been given prescription medication that helps them, and then that medication gets cut off? What the fuck do you think happens? They go to the street and they buy heroin. That's it. So it's the nation's laws in itself that's creating these addicts. The laws are the ones who are making things much, much worse. They are fucking things up. But to sum up this video, guys, take responsibility for your fucking self. I hate that I see every fucking day in the news people are fucking themselves up and the first thing they want to do is file a lawsuit against someone else. Blame somebody else for your fuck up. Their families, let's get money from somebody else because our family member is a fucking moron and can't handle themselves. Adults we're talking about. So in this case, this judge is completely fucking wrong, and this is a terrible abuse of power and an injustice. And this judge should be fucking removed from the bench immediately. These judges are way, way out of control. And they've let this power get to their heads, and they have no fucking idea what life in prison is. And I'm sure every one of these fucking judges is guilty of something themselves. And yet they've been put on this pedestal, and they think they're fucking just perfect. And they're smarter than everybody else, and they have the power of God to determine life and death. I don't agree with any of that. Read the article yourselves, guys. Please let me know what you think, and tell me if you think I'm wrong. At the end of the day, adults are responsible for their own fucking actions, and we're fucking up by allowing everybody to blame others for their own fucking mistakes. I hope you got something good out of this. I'll talk to you next time. Thanks.